Hello, my name is Jenevieve Norton, and today I will be talking about my undergraduate research focusing on the causes and consequences of nest site fidelity and lance-tailed manakins. So, what is nest site fidelity? Nest site fidelity describes when individuals return for multiple breeding efforts in the same area to nest and raise their young. And why should you care? Nest site fidelity is important because understanding where animals choose to raise their young gives us insight to their behavioral decisions and influences such as predation, resource availability, other territorial females, or anything that threatens the survival of the parent and their young. For my project, I analyzed the causes and consequences of choosing a certain nest site. The causes of nest site fidelity are why a female chooses a certain nest site, while the consequences describe the outcome of choosing that site. For the causes, I hypothesized that females are more likely to show fidelity when their offspring survived the previous year at that site, so the female would return to the same site if her offspring survived the previous year. I also hypothesized that females will switch nest sites when they switch mates because mating decisions may influence nesting decisions. As for the consequences, I hypothesized that chicks are more likely to fledge if their mothers renest in previously used sites. If the mothers keep going back to the same sites where they had chicks fledge, it seems more likely that the chicks would fledge again in that successful spot. I also expected that females are more likely to survive until the following year if they renest in the same area as the previous. Again, if the female is returning to where she had previous success, it would make sense that she is more likely to survive until the following year. I also believe that females who show fidelity may nest earlier in the breeding season because they don't need to spend the time or resources looking for a new nest site. They can just go back to their same spot and begin it again, and therefore start again earlier. I conducted my research on lance-tailed manakins. They're located in Isla Boca Brava, Panama. The population has been banded and monitored since 1999. Lance-tailed manakins are a small, polygynous tropical bird. Males perform complex dances for females on dance perches. The females will visit multiple dance perches and eventually choose a male to copulate with. The females also raise their young independently of the males, and similar to the mating, females build the nests and choose the nest sites and raise the young, also all independent of the males. Females can also have multiple nests throughout a breeding season, and I have examined both the between-year and within-year effects of nest site fidelity, so the females that are having nests in multiple years, year after year, and also the females who have had multiple nests within a year. For my analyses, I utilized long-term databases of nests monitored from 2000 to 2018 with a total of 1,004 nests. Subsets of these nests were created to fit each analysis. I only used nests in which we knew the lay date of the eggs, which was observed or inferred, the nest fate, found by observing the nests every 2 days, the survival of the female, determined whether she is seen, captured, or identified nesting at a later date, and of course the GPS location. Blood samples were collected to determine the paternity of the chicks through microsatellites as well. GPS coordinates are collected from each nest. The distance between nests was determined with the Pythagorean theorem. GPS coordinates are taken in eastings and northings, similar to latitude and longitude. So 2 consecutive nests from the same female then have the distance between the eastings and the distance between the northings found. These differences are added together, and the square root is taken to find the final distance between 2 nests. Females who moved over 12 meters were deemed to be unfaithful. This is because the accuracy of the GPS is generally around 6 meters. So by making sure that females moved over 12 meters, we can ensure that it's a new location and we're not just overlapping the GPS accuracies with the same areas. So on to the analyses. So first I'll be looking at why females should nest faithfully and if chick survival is a cause of why a female would return to the same field site. So we found that most of the time when comparing the probability of switching to the outcome of her chicks the previous year, females like to switch, but they are significantly more likely to stay at the same site if the chicks fledged that previous year. So we found that for both within years and between years, a female is more likely to return to the same nest site if she had past success the previous year raising chicks there. On to another cause, this time looking at the distance that the females move from their nest site. So again, comparing the last year's outcome to now the distance moved by switching females, we found that females who had nests who failed moved their nests farther away than females who switched sites but had a successful nest. So comparing to the previous, when females have past success at a nest site, they are more likely to stay. And then when females are switching their nest site and they have failed the previous year, they are more likely to build their nest farther away. And again, this was true for nests within the same year and nests between different years. Looking at another cause, the sire choice, we're comparing the mate choice to the probability of switching nest sites. We found that switching mates was not at all related to switching nest sites. This may be because that males are not involved in raising young or nesting at all, so the female choosing a certain nest site is not at all related to the male's location. Now on to the consequences or the outcomes of our nest choices in the females and how it affects their reproduction. We'll be looking at the female survival first. So we're going to be comparing if the females are staying or switching nest sites to if they are seen in later years or if they survived. And we found that there was no significant difference in the survival between females who do show nest site fidelity and those who switch nest sites. And now we'll compare the outcome of the chick survival and how female nest choice influences that. So we're comparing the nest site switching or staying to the probability of fledging your offspring. And we actually found that females who stayed in the same site are not any more likely to fledge chicks than females who switched. This was true for females within and between years. Now onto the outcome of the timing of the nests. We're comparing again our stay or switch to the lay date. So we're trying to see if there's any sort of difference in staying and switching and the time at which you build your nest. So though survival doesn't change in relation to fidelity, we did find that females who showed fidelity and renested near prior nest sites nested earlier in the field season. Females who nested earlier in the season have more opportunity to make nests throughout the breeding season and therefore more chances to fledge their chicks. This could be an advantage of site fidelity in the lance-tailed manakins because the survival isn't changing, but you can get more chances. So while most of the time females switch, they are more likely to stay in the same site if their chicks fledged the previous years, and they are more likely to move farther if their chicks failed. Sire choice is unrelated to nest site fidelity, and the survival rates of the chicks and mothers does not change in response to staying or switching your nest site. Although females who do show nest site fidelity nest earlier in the season and have more nests and therefore more chances to fledge their chicks. I'll take any questions that you have now.